Welcome. r/Nuclearrevenge. Serial date rapist gets the smackdown he deserves. TLDR summary: when a dear friend fell victim to a serial date rapist, I get him arrested for drug trafficking with unintended consequences more dire than I had planned. Justice? When people ask, what's the worst thing you've ever done? My mind instantly loads the following story into memory, but I've never shared it. Until now. Obligatory background. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest to an entertainment industry family. I spent a lot of my formative years on the road touring. It was a deceptively conservative life. When I was around 8 or 9 years old, I witnessed a jazz sax player from a band that my dad had booked shoot up and drop dead. This really drove home just say no. High school straight shooter. I played music all through school and started working professionally at a young age. I was pretty much straight edge until college. I got around to reading some Hunter S. Thompson and decided that a bong hit wasn't going to kill me. A few years out of school, around 1991, I started a small indie dance label and recording studio. This was back before every kid with a laptop could record in their bedroom. Anyhow, my company HQ became a favorite hangout for local rave promoters and club kids. I became pretty well connected in that scene. I started experimenting with more and more types of party drugs and subsequently found myself with friends who were either major dealers or dealer adjacent. Untouchable. In this clique there were 3 or 4 dudes who would be considered douchebags. You know the type. Fake tan, steroids, bleached hair, nice cars, etc. There was one dude in particular whom I always got a bad vibe from. As a young man in my 20s I liked sex as much as the next guy if not more, but even when I was out clubbing looking to get laid, I never pushed my agenda, never used coercion, guilt, etc. to manipulate a woman into bed. If I spent $300 on dinner, I never felt like they owed me something. The only expectation I had was, if you make the date, show up, which is just good manners. Anyhow, back to the douchebag. Let's call him Tyler. This guy had a great sense of humor, the kind of good looks that make straight boys say damn, money, and a politically connected family. During the time I owned my label I also played in jazz clubs in our city. One of the venues was this really cool martini bar. One of the bartenders was this super cute, bubbly, bright, and just downright fun girl. I met her in the rave scene, but got to know her through my jazz gig. She was super flirty, but was super old-fashioned. I'm not saying she was waiting for marriage, but close. She had grown up in a really small town and never really encountered bad people in her daily life, so she was quite trusting. This all changed when she was date raped by Tyler. He played the long con with this lovely human being. She had very little experience with drugs and sex when she went out with him. He got her whacked out on MDMA, did some pretty messed up things to her, had a buddy take photos, and violate her too. She was never the same after that. PTSD, self-loathing, depression. It was as if he killed her. Turn the other cheek my ass. Tyler told her that she had blacked out and didn't remember being into it, and peppered her with the typical bullshit along the lines of, backquote, I don't have to rape anybody, I get all the girls I want. Along with, nobody will believe you, and even if they did, there's no way I'll get arrested. Etc. Personally, I was bullied a lot as a kid, and I can take a lot of shit and not blink an eye. But when somebody hurts somebody I care about, I tend to lean toward asymmetrical responses. Ironically, Tyler was not a consumer of drugs nor excessive alcohol. This factors into things later. I spoke to 2 people about my plan. One was a major drug trafficker, the other was a member of state law enforcement. The Cliff Notes version of the retribution was, I purchased about $3,500 worth of heroin in pre-packaged / ready for retail baggies. I also got about 10 sheets of really powerful blotter acid. Tyler was attending a birthday party at a restaurant where I knew the valet staff really well. Well, not that well, but I was always an over-the-top kind of tipper. They knew me, knew I knew Tyler, etc. I told them I wanted to pull a prank on him and put something in his car. I slipped the guy a C note and told him it was harmless and wouldn't come back on him. So he agreed. I put the contraband under his passenger seat, gave the keys back and took off. Springing the trap. Tyler was a creature of habit and always took the same route home. My friend the state trooper didn't know what I was up to. I simply told him this due to hangs around my circle of friends was becoming a major drug dealer, and it putting my friends in danger. I told him the where and when, and left him to his own devices. Around 1:20 AM Tyler gets pulled over, and my friend does a DUI check. Tyler went ballistic, because he was stone cold sober. The trooper asks if he can search the car. Tyler agrees because he knows his car is clean. He gets arrested for possession intent to distribute, and the legally concealed pistol in his car didn't help either. He fought the law. If he hadn't been such a unfettered asshole, he would have gotten away with no jail time, but he was disrespectful to the judge, and got 18 months in prison, not jail, prison. He really was a moron. Instead of keeping his head down, shutting the hell up, and doing his time, he acted like a horse's ass, and ended up getting killed. I didn't mean for the revenge to go that far, but I don't feel remorse for how things played out one bit. I hope his rapist ass rots in hell. This is exactly what I have wished for the last 7 years would happen to the pose who raped and murdered my niece. We know who it is. The police and the DA's office has known from day one who killed my niece, but due to the fact the scumbag is also an illegal alien, they're too afraid he may take off to New York, get himself a new stolen ID. He wasn't going too far from his base of operations, wouldn't want to lose all those customers. The best part is due to him being the person who murdered my niece, he got himself a lawyer who is also going to try to get him his green card, then become an American citizen on the fact he murdered my niece. What a fine state and country this is.